Well, good afternoon, everyone. Chris Thorne with Higher Military. Glad to be here with you again and sharing some time with you here on LinkedIn Live. We're also out there on Facebook, live streaming, and across to the YouTube platform. And I'm glad to be here each week to share insights with you on your transition success and really some programs that are available to you. And so today I'm actually really glad to have an opportunity to be alone with you and spend a little bit of time talking about the DoD SkillBridge program. Now, I've heard an awful lot of comments. I've heard an awful lot of misunderstandings. I've heard an awful lot of just general misawareness of what DoD SkillBridge is. And so today I really wanted to have an opportunity to talk with you and sort of clear the air, provide some thoughts, some insights on what the programs are and how you can access them, and then hopefully answer some of your questions along the way. So let's get started by really breaking down what the programs are. And at the core of it all, the one that everyone should know is the program that's called JTEST-AI. That's Job Training, Employment Skills Training, Apprenticeships, and Internships. Wow, that's a long name, but that's the actual name of the program that was approved by Congress in 2011 as part of the National Defense Authorization Act to create an opportunity for you to have a transition success, full-time training with industry. So JTEST-AI is a really long name that nobody was going to remember. And because of that, it was shortened into a phrase that was then brought into the Department of Defense instruction called DoD SkillBridge, the opportunity for you to bridge your skills to gain useful employment and careers after your military service. Now, for those of you who've heard of it, but you're saying, well, I'm Army or I'm Air Force and we don't use SkillBridge. We use the Career Skills Program, CSP. I'm going to tell you a little secret. CSP is SkillBridge. It's just the way it is. The Army, just being what they are, had to make sure that they got a good programmatic name on it and started calling it the Career Skills Program under the Army instruction. And then the Air Force picked up on that terminology as well. So whether you call it JTEST-AI, whether you call it DoD SkillBridge, or whether you call it CSP, all of these are programs that were put together for your transition success. And so I want to share a little bit of information with you about what these programs are, where they came from, and how you're going to utilize them. And I usually think that the best way to start is by understanding what was actually written. Every time we talk about DoD SkillBridge and it sounds like this massive program, this is all that was written into law in 2011 that really created the program for your success. This is the phrase, and I'm not going to read through it all, but this is the core fundamental of what created the program for you to be able to be successful out there. And so DoD SkillBridge is not an overly complex program. As a matter of fact, when Congress passed DoD SkillBridge, they intentionally wanted to make sure that it was as easy as possible. But, oftentimes I hear people ask, well, why does SkillBridge exist? Why, what's the reason for this good deal out there? And we're going to talk about some leader information here today. But right now, I want to start with sort of where DoD SkillBridge came from and why it exists today and what created it. So, take a look with me. In 2009, nationwide unemployment rate coming out of the last recession era was nearly 10.5% in some areas out there. But we saw amongst transitioning service members an unemployment rate 9 months after leaving the military that was close to and approaching 50% unemployment. 50% of service members leaving military service were not finding that first job within 9 months of leaving the military. And that's huge. That's massive. But I got to tell you, when it comes down to it, let's understand the core thing here. It costs the government money when you, as a transitioning service member, do not get a job and you apply for unemployment compensation benefits. The Department of Defense is on the hook for that. Did you know that? Well, let me share that with you. No matter what state you go to, the Department of Defense is on the hook to pay that bill for it. And so when you go to unemployment office and file, that state charges DoD any given year. We're paying about $350 million from the Department of Defense for unemployment for service members who were not able to gain employment after they left military service. That's a lot of money, if you ask me. In 2009, we saw upwards of $1 billion of unemployment compensation benefits from the Department of Defense going to pay unemployment in states where service members were unable to find careers after they left military service. That's a lot of money. That's planes, trains, and automobiles not being built, and that's an awful lot of deployment and operations not happening. And so when we talk about why DoD SkillBridge came to exist, it's because the truth of the matter is unsuccessful military transitions were costing the government, the Department of Defense, money that was impeding operations. And so DoD brought in some studies, worked with Rand Corporation, some others, and said, what is the issue here? Now, we are only going to talk for about 30 minutes here today. So unfortunately, we're not going to go into the 5 million layers of that onion. But when you get down to the middle of it over and over and over again, whether we're talking about small mom and pop businesses, whether we're talking about Fortune 100 global corporations with 500,000 employees, the biggest barrier, the biggest obstacle that routinely was getting in the way of veterans having opportunity was a lack of recent relevant experience directly inside the industry. Now, don't get me wrong. When you're transitioning from military service, you've got amazing transferable skills. You've got soft skills. You've got the appreciation of your community that supports you for what you've given to our country. But without a doubt, there is nothing that replaces having some experience working directly inside of an industry, showing, demonstrating that you have worked on processes, programs, projects, and product lines that companies need you to work with so that they can be successful, because they need you to help them make them money. Otherwise, they wouldn't be hiring you. If they didn't need somebody to help them make money, they would not spend money on hiring somebody. So that lack of recent relevant experience, hands-on in industry, is where the challenge came from. And so when we look at that lack of recent relevant experience, there's no way to replace that in military service. We've got some skill sets in healthcare and science and technology, automotive maintenance sometimes, or vehicular maintenance. Some of those are very directly transferable to the industry, but so many of the skill sets that you bring into industry, we just don't do them the same in the military as they do out in the private sector. And there's a reason, because we're not making money in the military. We aren't running profits and losses. We aren't dealing with accountability to shareholders, unless, of course, you refer to the American taxpayer. But let's face it, wasn't really there. And so that recent relevant experience is something that you need. If you want to get that career as you leave the military, make no mistake, recent relevant experience in industry is something you need to be able to be successful. And so DoD SkillBridge was formed to allow transitioning service members to participate in full-time training with industry prior to their separation from active duty military for up to their final 180 days of active duty military service, that final 6 months. That's what the law authorized. Now, I showed you the screen just a little bit ago. The law is only this long. It's not that big and long. So at the core of it, from a military perspective, what did that really change? And leaders, I hope you're listening to me. And if you're thinking about using SkillBridge, please take this on so you can share it with your leadership if they're not listening. Because at the core of it, what it really did was it gave leaders lawful authority to give you permissive temporary duty in excess of 30 days, up to an authorization of 180 days, specifically for this program. So what does that mean? That means any commanding officer, any commander out there with Title 10 authorities has within their authorities right now the ability to issue permissive temporary duty to anyone under their discretion for a period of 30 days or less. They're judicious with the use of that. You don't see it often, but they have that authority to say, service member XYZ, I believe you need to go do something. I am issuing permissive temporary duty, 30 days, go and do it. That is what they have the lawful authority to do under their commands right now. This program was a specific act of Congress to give those commanders authority to issue permissive temporary duty up to an extended period of 180 days, specific to an authorization for the program that is now called DoD SkillBridge. At the core and fundamental of it, that's really what the program gave to military leaders and authorities. Now, for you as a service member, that gave you opportunity. And I'll talk a little bit in a minute or two about what that gave industry and companies, because that has a lot to do with some of the myths. But that's really what it comes down to, is that ability to let you go on permissive temporary duty to do full-time training with industry before you leave military service. And so this is something that's going to give you an opportunity to get the skills in industry. And so when we talk about it, what kind of numbers are we looking at? Each year we see more than 235,000 service members transition from military service. 235,000 leave military service each and every year to continue on to their civilian lives post-military. Whether you serve 4 years or 40, whether you're separating as an E3 or an O10, there's a significant volume of service members leaving with great experience out there. There's about 19 million veterans in the U.S. and about 9 million veterans in the U.S. labor force. The other 10 million are retired or not in the labor force out there. And you can see the tabs there say Gulf War era 1 and 2, and then the pre-Gulf War era. That just breaks down by some year groups. Most of you fall within the Gulf War era too, because you're in the military service right now. And that's the modern era of service. And we've got about 3.6 million veterans from your service era who are currently in the American workforce. Now, 170 million Americans in the American workforce out there, 3.6 million modern era veterans in the workforce. That tells you that there's a very small percentage. So when we talk about connecting with non-veterans in industry, let that sink in for a minute. But I want you to understand there are some great needs coming out of the military service when we look at the types of people who leave the military and are going out there. Electronic repairs, construction, specialties, mechanic, human resources, media public affairs. Where, Jose Velasquez, if you're watching right now, I want you to pay attention to that number. Almost 3,000 media public affairs specialists leaving military service each year. And so there are some amazing skills out there that we are able to bring into the community, but you have to know how to deal with them, how to access them, and how to take advantage of those programs out there. So, one of the things that we look at is, why is this program making a difference for you? What is the real difference maker in this? Okay, well, I told you recent relevant experience, but now let's talk about what that means for the employers out there. So if you've never worked with an employer who's hiring, then I want to share some information on what it means to them to hire you. And the truth is, it means money. And don't be afraid to say that. Don't be ashamed to say that. Ladies and gentlemen, as you leave military service and you're looking for a job, you need to understand the workforce is about profits and losses. Companies need to make money, save money, or fundamentally change for the future. And you need to be able to participate in that. And so every time a company is looking at hiring somebody, they're doing something that's a little different from what we're used to in military service. In the military, we have a table of organization, an authorized manning document, whatever that may be inside your organization, within your unit. You have a document that says, I'm supposed to have 10 people in this area, right? 10 people. And so if I only have 9 people, I'm going back to my manning authority, whatever command that is, and saying, give me my 10th person. I'm probably not paying attention whether I need a 10th person. I just know that I've got an empty line on my manning document. And so I'm saying, give it to me. In the civilian world out there, if there are 10 people working in an industrial shop and one person leaves, they're fired, they quit, they move on, retire, whatever it is, one person leaves and now there's 9 people. Well, if those 9 people can continue to do the job and make the product and manufacture, they're going to just stay with those 9 people, because why would I spend money on a 10th person that cuts into my profits if the 9 people who are there can do the job? And so what that means is that for a company to be hiring somebody, they have a need. They have a need for somebody to fulfill a role inside their organization that they cannot fulfill without putting somebody into that job. Understanding that need is what gets you in there. But you have to understand that's also an expensive proposition. Companies, most of them out there, preponderance of companies in America, about 80% of their operating capital funds go into the human capital, paying people to be there. And so investing in their employees is a massive amount of resource. And when you do it wrong as a company, then you go out of business. And all those employees are unemployed. And all those products you made are no longer produced. Managing how you hire, fire, and manage people is how you stay in business as a company. So if I'm going to bring you into my company out there, I need to look at what my risk is. And if you are a veteran coming out of the military service, the unfortunate truth is, and I'm going to share this with you, and I'm being honest with you because we all need to understand this, there are risks that come as a veteran when you come into the workspace out there. Those risks are because of a pattern. And part of that pattern is a very unfortunate but true statistic that service members leaving military service, taking that first job out of the military, will leave that first job within the first 12 months about 50% of the time. About 50% of the time. It's a little less. There's some margin in that statistic in conversation, but it's right up close to about 50% of the time. That means if I'm a company and I'm paying money to hire you on board because I have a need for somebody to do, and I'm hiring a veteran taking their first job out of the military, I'm taking a 50-50 roll of the dice that you're going to leave me in that first year, and now I'm going to have wasted the money on hiring you, and I'm still going to have that need unfulfilled. So that's one of the reasons. Now, I'm kind of eager to show you. This is a study that was done by Syracuse University. The Institute for Veterans and Military Families looked at what it is. What are the reasons that service members leave that first job out there? And, take a look right up on top of that new employment opportunity. Service member gets that first job out of the military and they get a better job offer in that first year, right? They didn't exactly have themselves dialed in, but almost half the time, that first year, we call it first year attrition rate, is because that veteran got a better job offer within the first year. That's a risk. So when we talk about that, lack of career development, maybe they weren't plugged into where they wanted to be, quality of work not being there, inadequate compensation. You read through this chart, these are all things that have to do with the service members just not really being fully integrated into the culture, the environment, and understanding of the industry out there. So it's really important to understand that coming with these risks are why a lot of companies look at veterans and say, I'm not really sure. You don't have experience in my industry. I love what Dave just shared in here. Dave, thanks. I appreciate you being on here. But cost to an employer can be upwards of 200% of annual salary to bring that next person in out there. Now, that said, there's some real rewards to bringing in veterans, and companies know this. Do not think that companies are not aware, because I'm here to tell you they do know this. Veterans work great in teams. They have self-confidence. They have intuitiveness. They're organized. They're disciplined. They follow through on things. Companies know and understand these things and want to bring you in as a veteran. I hear a lot of people say, oh, companies don't want veterans. No, companies want veterans, but they want veterans that they know are not going to cost them a 50-50 chance of losing all of that money out there. And so you have qualities they want, but you need to be able to get over the barriers that are stopping them in the first place. And so using DoD SkillBridge as your opportunity is how you do that. Why? Because DoD SkillBridge now allows you to get your foot inside the door of a company while you're still on active duty. You get to train with industry so that you find out and understand what the processes and programs are like. Do you fit into the culture? Do you understand how they organize? Can you be appropriate in their organization and be successful? And even better, one of those statistics we talked about was inadequate compensation or feeling unfulfilled, no ability to progress in the job. Well, when you're doing those translation of skills coming out of the military, it's hard for a company to know exactly where to plug you in. And so most often they're going to kind of shoot low and then let you blossom upward. But, as the veteran, when you get placed low, you're kind of feeling unloved, right? You see somebody supervising you above you, 2 levels above you, that you could be doing the job, and it can be frustrating. And that frustration turns into an internal where service members then want to leave that job. Well, when you do DoD SkillBridge and you've spent up to 6 months in a company working on their processes and programs, now they know exactly what your capabilities are. They know what you can handle. They know where you're at, and so they can target to hire you into the organization at an appropriate rate out there. So I've got a question here from Joshua that I want to go ahead and jump into right now because I think it's a great one. And he asks, how likely is it that a company will hire someone transitioning into a new industry? And that's a great question, Joshua. And the truth is, coming out of the military, 75% of transitioning service members are going to do military occupation unrelated jobs. That means they're going to go into job fields and occupations that are not related to what they did in the military. This is a time of transition. It's a career shift, and you actually get a little bit of understanding from industry that you're doing that. So there's great opportunity for that, but that does not relieve you of the responsibility of being prepared for that industry shift and being able to be effective when you're doing it out there. So great question here. So Matthew, always great seeing you, Matthew, talking about DoD SkillBridge and Title 32 Army National Guard and Reserve out there. So this is probably a great time to start getting into how the program itself works and what we're talking about, and we'll get the Guard in there as well. Don't let me get away without that. So let's talk about some of the rules of DoD SkillBridge. And the first one, it's not up here on the board, but you have to understand there is a significant rule that you need to be transferring or transitioning out of military service with greater than 180 days of service and transitioning under honorable conditions. That is really the limiting factor out there. And easiest way that I generally use for you to understand, well, what does it mean honorable conditions? Because we all know there's lots of different separations codes and things like that. Honorable conditions, the easiest way to assess is if you would otherwise be eligible for promotion in your service based on normal criteria, but you're separating from military service, then you're generally considered to be honorable. There's some interesting sides in there, but that's the easiest way to look at it. Minimum of 180 days of continuous active duty service, and you must perform the DoD SkillBridge within the final 180 days of your military service. It doesn't cross into after you're out. The eligible services are Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Space Force, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, we just got Coast Guard reauthorized by Congress, although they're working through the process, and we're eager to hear from the Coast Guard leadership on how that's going to look. But Congress has specifically ensured that the Coast Guard is written into the authorization for it out there, and so we're excited to do that. And it does include elements of the Guard and Reserve who have been on continuous active duty for greater than 180 days. So your active Guard and Reserve are eligible to participate on their transition from active Guard and Reserve, but mobilized reserves are eligible to participate as well. Little more challenging, and I share that with you because you still have to finish it prior to your separation from active duty, and you had to have done 180 days continuous. So that means you had to be mobilized for 6 months and then do SkillBridge before you demobilize. So the program itself requires that there must be from the employer a certification of a high likelihood of employment. High likelihood of employment is not a guaranteed job from a company. So I'm going to dispel that myth, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. A company accepting you for a DoD SkillBridge program is not a guaranteed job offer. What it is an opportunity. Now, when we work with companies and talk about high likelihood of employment, we're talking about making sure that companies have open opportunities and eligibility to create hiring options for people who are competitively capable for that following their SkillBridge. Anybody who thinks that this is just a free labor program, it's not. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute here. Companies have to be able to do it. Now, the Army, I will tell you, has kind of a baseline. They're looking for about 85% of DoD SkillBridge CSP opportunities to have a job offer from the company that they participate with. That's a range that we look at across most services as an indication of success out there. So when we talk about high likelihood of employment, I need you to understand this is not a jobs guarantee program. This is a skills enhancement program that does tend to lead to job opportunities. And I will say that across all DoD SkillBridge programs, we see over 87% of those who participate get an offer for a job with that company. It has to be at low or no cost to the service member. Now, low or no cost can include things like if you're going to work on a construction site and you need steel-toed boots, you're responsible for buying your own steel-toed boots. What we're not going to accept are people who are charging you application and subscription fees and tuitions and things like that. Now, there's some exceptions for programs out there, but the whole point here is to create an opportunity for you, not to charge you money. And then there needs to be some ethics laws and federal labor laws that are compliant, and those are easy enough to work with out there. So the program itself is set up to be successful for you. To give you an idea, though, of what it's looked like and how it's gone across, I mentioned 2011 was when Congress passed this through the National Defense Authorization Act, and 2015 was really when it became active for military service out there. And, in 2015, the Department of Defense issued the DoD instruction that got it going, and there were one or two programs that kicked it off. The Corporate Fellowship through Hiring Our Heroes, it was probably one of the initial partner organization really to get this going out there. And from 2015 to 2017, Hiring Our Heroes, the Corporate Fellowship Program through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, did amazing things to create opportunities. But through that, with more than 230,000 transitioning service members across all programs, we were seeing still just about 1,000 uses per year. And that 1,000 uses per year was great, but so many more. Generally, the things that were holding back were a lack of understanding and awareness within the service and a lack of opportunities from companies who were participating in the program out there. 2018, those numbers started to increase, and we saw more than 2,000 utilizations. But I'm really glad to say that as program awareness and understanding is growing, and as industry understanding is growing, in 2020, we saw 15,000 uses of DoD SkillBridge across more than 500 different employers and programs out there. And this is going to just continue to grow. It's about educating, informing, understanding in industry, as well as understanding within the services themselves. So I have a couple questions I want to jump on here real quick, and just to make sure we get those. So David had asked, are they looking only for a job offer from the original company, or is it considered success if the original company successfully refers the veteran to another company? David, that's a really good question. I gotta tell you the truth. There's no defined. Remember, let's go back to the beginning where the law is only this long. There's no defined metric of success. The general metric of success is the host company organization that you partnered with for your SkillBridge offered you a role or connected you to a role for permanent full-time employment following your internship. That's what we sort of look at. So under your question, David, I would say if that company that you participated with, if they referred you directly to another company who gave you an offer, I think that would qualify for success. Obviously, we'd want to make sure that that was within the parameters of what is ethically included in there. But I think that's a great question. I really, really appreciate that. So, Scott, great point there. And I know there was some discussion going on out there, and we saw that Tonathel, and I apologize, Tonathel, if I said that correctly. Does the program always have to be local? Can you apply to a different state? So great question. DoD SkillBridge is a nationwide program, and you can participate anywhere in the United States of America, regardless of where your final permanent duty station is. And that's the great thing about it, is that you can connect with an employer in the location where you want to be, not just the location where you happen to be final duty station assigned. Now, let me give you a caveat with that. Your participation in the program is under permissive temporary duty orders. That permissive temporary duty orders means that you're not going to receive any travel or per diem funding from the government. So if you happen to be stationed in San Diego and you agree to participate in a DoD SkillBridge program in North Carolina, that means you're responsible for getting yourself to North Carolina, for having adequate accommodations, lodging, housing, a place to live while you are in North Carolina. So you're responsible for your own costs associated with that, but there's some ability to work with that. You continue to receive housing allowances and other things during that period. All your pay and allowances continue, but it is permissive temporary duty, but it is a great way to give you a head start into jumping into that next phase of your life out there. So it's something that really is great. There's another great thing, and I got to tell you, a year ago, and I'm sharing insider secrets with you right now. A year ago, when we talked with service leadership and folks at the Department of Defense, and we talked about remote work. Shh, don't say that, right? Remote work. Yeah, the truth is, a year ago, most people thought of remote work as chilling on the beach in Cozumel with cerveza in hand, and maybe you turned on email once a day. And, so there was, I'm not going to lie, there was maybe a little bit of hesitancy to engage in those opportunities. Well, March of 2020, I think the world changed significantly, and we all know that. And whether you were in service or whether you were in industry, we all figured out that remote work is something that is very real and happening all across the globe, and actually can be very, very effective and create more opportunities to connect you to a company and an organization that can really use your skills and services, even if you're not geographically in the same location. So now it's really awesome to see that across DoD SkillBridge service programs, there are amazing partners who are creating fully remote options and opportunities so that you can participate in SkillBridge that grows you, trains you, mentors you, and effectively gets you into industry, and you can do it remote from anywhere in the nation, anywhere in the world. That's another thing actually to bring up. This is a DoD program. This is not a DoD North America, NORTHCOM program. This is a DoD program. That means if your final permanent duty station is in Asia, Europe, wherever it may be, you are eligible to participate. It takes a little longer lead time. You definitely need to plan for it and think about it, but you're eligible to participate, and you absolutely should be. So, wow. I apologize. I just realized we've been going on for a long time already. I want to bring in a question here that Michelle had. So if you're not able to take advantage of the DoD SkillBridge before, can you do it through another military internship? And so I'm going to use that, Michelle, to transition into probably one of the next programs or the next elements that I want you to understand about SkillBridge and how it works. And that's the employer side of things. So I'm not going to go into the hours-long discussion about federal labor law here. There's lots of it. If you're really interested, let's set up a phone call. I'd love to tell you all about it. But at the core and fundamental of it, for most profit-making companies under federal labor law, it is not legal for them to use free labor. Did you know that? Federal labor law precludes most companies from using free labor. And so when we talk about internships, oftentimes service members will refer to DoD SkillBridge as an unpaid internship. Well, I'm going to share with you, unpaid internship's kind of a bad phrase to use in industry. Now, we can pull up the laws and I'll show you there are some unpaid internships which are okay by federal labor, and that's most closely associated with academic college type programs. And there's some things there. Ladies and gentlemen, I got news. As service members, you really do not hit the 6-part test that the Department of Labor has set in place. So unpaid internship is not what we're looking at. This is what makes DoD SkillBridge work the way that it does. You're still on active duty. You're on official duty and appointed to that company that you're training with as your official place of duty, which means you are fulfilling your military duties and responsibilities and being paid by the government to do so. So you have your pay, you have your health care, you have your life insurance, they're taking care of Social Security benefits. All those things that are required for federal law are being paid by the federal government because that is your official military duties while you're there. So the host company is able to have you there without paying you. But make no mistake, you're not free labor to them. And that's probably the other myth or misconception I would talk about. Lots of service members think, well, I'm just free labor to this company. It's not true. As a matter of fact, I would tell you any company that uses you as free labor is absolutely non-compliant with the ethics and law of what DoD SkillBridge is, because DoD SkillBridge is meant to train you, to give you skills, to mentor you, and to increase your ability to work inside industry, which if the company's doing it right, means they're spending time and resources on you that they would otherwise be spending on making money. So you actually are costing them a bit of money by them taking the time and energy to train you. And they're investing that in you because their hope is that you're going to be a great onboarded employee for them. But when we talk about that sort of free labor thing, the truth is any company where you feel like you're just free labor, I'd love to talk to you, because the truth is they're probably not complying with what the program is intended to be. They are going to spend time, effort, and resources to make you better out there. And so that's an important understanding of the employer side. Now, lots of times I'll get people who will ask me, well, what if I just do an internship for this company that's right outside the gate of my installation so I can go and get a job back home after I move, after I leave military service? So taking that same thing that I just said, companies are going to invest time, energy, and resources in training you to be ready for industry. The truth is, most companies, if they're going to spend time, energy, and resources training you to be ready in industry, don't really want to do it to train you to go work for somebody else. I mean, that's just the honest truth. They're looking for future employees to work for them. That's where the really good thing about this program is. And so, Catherine, I am going to bring you in here because I want to highlight anyone who's creating opportunities out there. And thank you so much for taking the time. And you're probably bringing home the last point before I go ahead and close out for today. And that is, what programs are out there? Where are they? And how do I participate? So there are more than 500 employers who are participating with the Department of Defense SkillBridge program through direct memorandum of understanding and agreement out there. And you absolutely need to take a look at the DoD SkillBridge website. DoD SkillBridge, US Learn, .gov, I apologize, got that wrong. Just Google DoD SkillBridge. It'll take you straight to the site, and there's great employers on there to directly connect with. There's great opportunities and organizations through bases and installations who are running individual programs out there that you can connect with through the base local installation coordinator out there. Amazing programs like the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program that runs amazing things. Hire military, come join us. We've got some great opportunities and some great partners, about 150 partners we work directly with. The point is, there are lots of opportunities out there for you, and anyone who says that they can't access a program is not taking a look at really what is available out there, because there are amazing. Now, one of the things I often say is there's 24 million eligible employers in the United States, and we've only got 23.99 million of them not participating right now. So one of my missions is to get them on board. I've got a ways to go here, but we're getting things going. Check with your individual service regulations on what it takes to participate in the program. I'm scrolling those across the bottom down here right now. And if anyone wants a little bit more information on those, let me know and I'll let you know. So the last thing before I head out, actually, I'm going to go ahead and hit a couple questions before I hit some of the leadership information here. So we've got Joshua. Are there industries that hire veterans more than others? I know there's plenty about material demand. Industries likely hire veterans. You know, Joshua, we see strong utilization in information technology and manufacturing and production and project management. I got to tell you, I see huge demand in the trades and industries out there. I'm talking with great companies and great opportunities for high-paying positions in manual labor, whether we're talking about industrial mechanical work, whether we're talking about construction, whether we're talking about, this whole range. I see a huge demand for that, but we're not connecting with those service members, generally the E5 and below, 28-year-old and below, who are really the pathway to those. We're not connecting with them about SkillBridge as an opportunity. And sometimes as leaders, we're not supporting them in doing that either. And so I think the industries are far and wide, and sometimes it's just a matter of getting connected to them. Andrew had asked, how difficult is it to get an internship into fields that require certification members don't possess? And so that's a really good question. One of the things we want, Andrew, is to participate in SkillBridge internships that are going to build you into the requirements that you need to be hireable into that job. So oftentimes, it's certifications. If it requires licensure, if it requires certification, then if you don't have it going in, there should be a pathway as part of that SkillBridge program to get you to that license, to get you to that credential. I work with some amazing partners. Last week I had our partners from Splunk on here, and Splunk, when they bring on a DoD SkillBridge intern, they give them about 5 different credentials that they go through during their internship program, so that when they finish SkillBridge, they have everything they need to be qualified for a direct hire. And that's really, to me, what I think the great programs are all about here. So absolutely great question. And I would say, reach for those positions that you don't think you're ready for, but you have an interest in, and try to bring yourself up to the standard. That's what SkillBridge is really supposed to be doing. Matthew out there, great plug-in, and I'm going to throw that out there. Onward to Opportunity is an excellent place to definitely get that first look at it. So I'm going to finish off here after I've been going on a little bit too long with one more thought, and this one I'm going to share for the leaders out there. So if you are one of my military leaders in transition, one of my military leaders not in transition, or if you know a military leader, I want to share some thoughts. Why should you support DoD SkillBridge? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I've got only so many people to stand the watches, do the jobs, do the assignments that I've got in the military unit. Why am I going to support young Seaman Snuffy or Private Schmuckatelli going off and doing this program to get ready for the next part of their life, right? It's unfortunate, but I hear it. It's not my responsibility to get you ready for your civilian job. And we'll put aside any discussion for the moment on what kind of leadership values come in that thought process. But let me talk to you from a military perspective now, because I told you early on that we have over 235,000 transitioning service members leaving military service every year. Ladies and gentlemen, that means that we need to start almost 250,000 new accessions every year. Officer enlisted, service school academy, direct accession, boot camp, whatever it may be, 250,000 new servicemen and women need to join the service each and every year from across our nation for us to be able to continue to keep our warfighting force going into the operations that they need to out there. Now, you might think that's great. That's what the recruiters are out there doing. Well, I'm going to share with you, if you know a recruiter, great conversation to have with them. All services, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, we've got about 20,000 recruiters out there on the streets and those, out in those malls and those recruiting stations out across the nation doing a great job. They work really hard, and my hat's off to each and every one of them. But about 20,000 of them, and the truth of the matter is those 20,000 recruiters are not the touch point that are bringing in 250,000 service members every year. 250,000 service members join each year because they're hearing about military service from prior service veterans or from those who are in the military right now, telling them about their experience, about the opportunity and what's there. And so when we see 50% unemployment of service members transitioning 9 months post-military service, when we see veteran unemployment, when we see veteran homelessness, when we see veteran societal issues, when you turn on the news and they're highlighting downtown LA and the number of veterans sleeping in tents out there, not only is that socially unacceptable and just a damn shame in the first place, but from a recruiting perspective, how many of America's moms and dads are going to send their sons and daughters off to military service when they think that the objective outcome is that they're going to end up sleeping under an overpass in downtown Los Angeles? And that's what happens. When we get negative messaging from those who have left our service because they did not achieve post-military success, we will not be able to attract the young men and women we need to start military service tomorrow. On the other hand, when that service member, when that young 24, 25-year-old walks out the gate and jumps on Instagram, Snapchat, and anything else they might have out there and says, I cannot believe it, but my 5 years in the Army set me up for success. I am years ahead of my peer group because of what I learned. And on my way out the door, they helped me transition into this amazing career through the SkillBridge CSP program. Then that attracts future young men and women who are going to come into our service. And that's how we keep people going. So the way that we treat our transitioning service members, the way that we support them in their successful careers after military service is directly related to our ability to attract and retain the fighting force that we need tomorrow. It is an absolute operational leadership imperative to support successful transitions to be able to have a fighting force that we need for tomorrow. And so from a leadership perspective, I really wanted to share that with you, and hopefully that gives you something to think about. Okay. There's lots of great conversation. I'm so glad to see some of our partner employers and great other employers that are out there. Carl Soares, I know I saw your name scrolling through out there. And if you saw Carl Soares on there, Carl is at Northrop Grumman running one of the strongest DoD SkillBridge programs in the nation. You need to connect with him if you've got an interest in a great company out there. I know I've seen a few other. Dave Beetle, thank you so much. BJ Keating is out there participating in a great program, and I'm so happy to see you on here as well. And for any of you who have questions that I can answer directly, please connect with me. Let's have a conversation. If you are a service member looking for an opportunity, connect with me. Let's talk. If you're a military leader who's not sure about the program or why you should support it or how to support it, talk to me. Let's connect. And absolutely, if you are an employer who wants to create opportunities for service members through this program, let's connect and let's talk and let's create some opportunities. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really want to thank you. I know we went kind of long today. I appreciate the opportunity to sit with you. If you've been watching us live, participating in the chat, I really appreciate all that conversation. If you're watching us later on, make sure you throw some comments in and we'll make sure to follow up. Tag me in there so I get it, because I don't always catch the chats if you don't tag me later on. If you're with us on YouTube or you're watching this later on Facebook, glad to have you with us as well. We always love to bring you on over. This is where the professional action's happening on LinkedIn, but we're glad you decided to join us. And I look forward, hopefully, to seeing all of you again next week. I'm Chris Thorne. I'm the Director of Accounts with Higher Military. I'm here each week on Thursday afternoons at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and I'm here to talk about your opportunities for transition success and programs that are going to help set you up for success. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you all next week. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.